Hey guys, Hey Dragon here, back with yet another Hunter x Hunter volume review. And today we have the splendid, the amazing volume 2. Now, one thing I forgot to mention in my last volume review is covering the front cover. Now this front cover is absolutely amazing. It shows the joy, adventure of Gon Freaks and just the overall interest that the series brings to you in the very first chapter. And I found that the second cover art was perfect, as it is an extension of that. It is Gon with his friends already established, sitting down on their adventure, and I thought it was a very neat touch. So going into this volume, it covers quite a substantial period of time. Of course, you've got Hisoka going through a rampage in the swamps between the first and second stages of the Hunter exam, and then afterwards you go all the way to Trick Tower where Gon has just burnt out the prisoner's candles. So in that quite expansive period of time, which covers just 9 chapters, I found that the pacing was quite brilliant. So, starting off with chapter 9. Now, chapter 9 was really incredible. I would go as far as saying this is probably my favorite chapter of the volume. We've got Hisoka's rampage, and throughout this rampage, it is very different from both anime variants. It is more prolonged. In this case, whilst the manga, for most instances, speeds up the pacing and gets to things quickly, this slows it down into quite amazing effects. The number of applicants that Hisoka kills isn't the dozens and dozens. He is going through wave after wave of Hunter exam applicants, almost like a Call of Duty Zombies game. So that is absolutely just hype. It makes us really see Hisoka as this big bad threat. And it really puts into context just how much higher of an echelon he is than everyone else in this exam. And one of my favorite things is just the looks of desperation on the faces of Kurapika and Leorio, as Hisoka is really giving us a lot of exposition and look into himself. By this stage, it's obvious that Togashi has really set Hisoka up as the big bad of Hunter x Hunter. He is the equivalent of Frieza and Dragon Ball. He is, the main antagonist, and it's very clear because throughout the first 2 volumes, he is given the most screen time out of any character which isn't Gon or Killua. So he goes through and he just kills everyone, and he gets to the stage where it's time to kill Leorio and Kurapika. Leorio, Kurapika, and applicant number 76 are all just bewildered. The applicant says, hey guys, I know we came here to do the Hunter exam, but we need to dip ASAP. And all 3 of them run in different ways before Leorio comes back, gets his ass beat by Hisoka, Gon leaves Killua, gets a hit on Hisoka, and Hisoka just wipes the floor of both of them and tells them they've passed, gets the phone, and then is told to go to the location of the next exam. What I like about this is it puts a sense of tension. We don't know at this stage, if you're a new reader, whether Hisoka is an examiner or whether he is just another applicant. We just know he is this wildly overpowered serial killer, with one line in particular where applicant number 76 says, even if we had an entire army with us, we'd still be absolutely dead in front of him. So afterwards, we see that applicant number 76 is just dead on a tree, and Gon and Killua are going past. What I like about this is it really shows the brutality of Hunter x Hunter, and it doesn't try to hold back. All the kills that Hisoka has are gruesome, they're brutal. So we get on to chapter 10, where we start the cooking phase. And now the great amazing thing about this chapter is the banter, is the humor, is the change in art styles, as they're all trying to satisfy these gourmet hunters. Of course, Menshi being at the helm of this testing process. And you've got this banter of they're being told to make sushi and no one knows what sushi is. And Hanzo's like, oh yeah, this is my specialty. I know about this. And then everyone's kind of looking at him like, he knows. Yeah, this guy knows something. And afterwards they go out. You've got the humorous pigs, which are charging at them. They all come back running, carrying cooked pigs on their backs. It's very humorful. And then you've got the stages where they're trying to learn how to cook. It goes by fast enough to which it doesn't feel like that much of a drag. That is really the concern, is that, especially in both animes, it did feel like a still period of time. But here, it uses that instead of actually going through the actions of cooking. We see the thinking processes of the applicants, especially Kurapika, and we see the humor. It's like Leorio presents his and she's like, what is that? And then afterwards, Gon's like, okay, let me try something different. She's like, you're just as bad as Leorio. And he's just like, and then Kurapika does the same, and Leorio's just like, guys, is it really that embarrassing to be as bad as me? So I love just the humor, the banter between the groups. I thought it was really fun. And then there was a time where Hanzo then got really mad and started shouting because he didn't like the fact that his sushi was rejected, and he just spilled the beans. And you've got everyone who's running to get their pigs. Hold on, let me show you this panel. It's absolutely amazing. The fact that the art style just completely changed. It really just shows the ability that Togashi has, that he can really take on any style of mangaka and he can do any bit and portion of a story, since he's just so versatile as an artist and a writer. Here is what I'm talking about. This is something you'd see in a comedy manga like One Punch Man or Saiki K. And it's just very fun to see how refreshing it is. Constantly the art style is changing, constantly the scenery, the applicants are changing. There's a real sense of momentum and of variety with these. So that comes up the portion of these two chapters, and then we get on to chapter 12 where the pacing picks right back up again. We've got, of course, Chairman Netero. As we know, the GOAT of Hunter x Hunter. He's there in a building, being told that Menchi has disqualified every single applicant. He's just like, hold on a second here. What is your basis to do so? So Netero arrives and he jumps from this giant ship. And it's a period which is just really exciting as we see how much everyone is becoming stressed, and it's really taking what's inside of people. And that's the great parallel, is that Gon said earlier, if you want to learn about someone, find out what makes them angry. And of course, you've got the sumo wrestler that's absolutely furious. He gets his ass beat, and everyone else is frustrated. Hisoka can't contain his bloodlust. And it's through the lens that Gon gave us, through that perspective, that we're able to learn about each of the characters. We're able to get a glimpse into that characterization and the method of expedition just from what frustrates everyone. For instance, with Hanzo, we see that he's got an expectation. He demands respect so that when he is completely dismissed, he is bothered. We see that Leorio wants to get the credit. He wants to be Mr. Popular. So when he is instantly thrown out, he feels disenfranchised. And we see that Kurapika wants to feel validated in his thought process. So the fact that he is just like Leorio is absolutely brain-numbing. And whilst a lot of these are similar, the differences help us really understand their characters. And I think that this is really the main point of the second stage. It's all about characterization. So Netero goes and he asks Menchi to change up the process. So we get it so that they need to find these eggs, these eagle eggs in a mountain, and they need to jump down, pick them up, and then climb back up on the rocky surface. Now, this is different to the anime variants, because in the anime variants, there's a gush of wind that brings them up. So it's always very interesting to see how much the animes stray from the manga, and in ways which I don't really quite understand, to be fair. The existence of applicant number 76 is not there at all. He is very much the sense of reason towards Kurapika and Leorio, which are very starstruck from Hisoka. So that was also left out of the animes. But here the difference means that it really is a case of cowardice, everyone that wasn't able to. And you see that humble the sumo wrestler, and there's a really nice piece of character growth as this portion of the story is really about accepting one's mistakes. We've got Menchi who's, kind of giving in and saying, yeah, I went overboard because I was emotional and it's my fault. You've got the sumo wrestler saying, yeah, I wasn't ready this year, but I will be next year. And this felt like the conclusion of the first portion of the Hunter exam, and there's something quite satisfactory about it. And then the reintroduction comes with Gon and Killua that are starting to bond and grow a friendship in chapter 13. And now Netero wants to test them out. He has noticed that they have been more exceptional than the rest, and he gives them a game. If they can beat him, they can immediately become hunters. Just get this bowl out of his hands, and they are full-fledged hunters. They both try. We see more about Killua. We see the fact he's an assassin with these techniques. And we see Gon's out-of-the-box thinking. The fact that he's charging head first. He's kicking his shoe out of his foot to give his attack more range. And it's super satisfactory to see the differences between Gon and Killua. Now this is really where their friendship begins in the manga, because a lot of scenes from 2011 are not existent in the manga, and here it's a slow burn. We are gradually building up to this stable friendship. And here we see that Killua is putting up an act. They're talking before this match, of course, against Netero, and he's just saying, my parents are mass murderers. And Gon's like, oh wow, really? And he's like, ha 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 ha, you fell for it. And Gon's just like, you're being serious though, right? And there's a moment of realization from Killua that Gon is the first person he's ever met that he doesn't have to hide himself from. Gon truly doesn't judge within the lens that most people do. Most people are worried about the specifics, the semantics, the logistics of things. And this goes back to the one question test, where Kurapika was so focused on getting the right answer, Leorio was focused on the morality of it, and he was ready to beat an old woman, which, it's kind of crazy. Kill Leorio, but, you understand it, just from a morality point of view. But Gon sees a different picture. He just sees the actual problem at hand, and he's looking at it without putting on a bias, right? He's not just, saying, hey, this is where my ego wants me to take. And it's from that open perspective that Killua feels that Gon might become a friend or something that he doesn't quite know of just yet. But Killua, in typical fashion, he gets frustrated with Netero because he sees it as pointless. He's a very rational, 1 + 1 is 2 facts. If something doesn't work, he doesn't attempt it. So he goes off, but he's quite annoyed because he's a very sore loser. At this stage, we see that even though we know that he is currently under the anxiety of being in the Zodiac family, he is trying to fight that urge. He wants to be brave and courageous. So, afterwards, we see that he just absolutely murders some people, just in his rage. And there's something just so explicit, brutal, and just raw about it. It really does show the dark side of this anime, and it's just in this nonchalant, casual way that it really makes us question who is the good guy, who is the bad guy, and what is the morality of this manga? What is Hunter x Hunter in the Hunter x Hunter world? What are the principles that a hunter must have? We saw Hisoka, this mass murderer, is allowed to take the hunter exam. And it's that element of mystique and that element of surprise which just helps give that little extra. I like to use the what factor or the if factor. And Hunter x Hunter has that because it always has a grain of mystery. There's things we want to know that the story isn't telling us, and that keeps us involved regardless of if we are interested in what is currently being explained and shown to us. Right. So after that, Gon finally gets Netero to use his right hand in the most Gon way possible. He essentially does a suicide charge headbutting into Netero, and Netero, out of just sheer human compassion, allows Gon to live by dodging the attack. And Gon's just happy, is ecstatic. It's a wholesome moment. We see art style change as Togashi does so expertly. And even now, we're starting to see his Killua and Leorio's characterization and the art style and their outfits and the way that they're drawn starting to become more human, more normal, as we, the reader, are starting to learn more about it. So that's a very nice touch. I very much enjoyed it. Of course, we're Netero cutting up saying, hey, can we slow down the airship a bit? This kid, he deserves a bit of a rest. So that was very wholesome. They arrive, of course, at the third stage of the Hunter exam, which is Trick Tower. Now, in this volume 50, in chapter 15, we see that it is very much a mental game. Everyone is on edge, and this is really where we see Killua in particular excel. He is used to these conditions and he immediately sees that people are falling into the structure. So with his lead, they manage to get down into the tower and Tompa becomes their teammates. Now by this point, it's not actually that obvious that Tompa is not a good guy. In both the animes, there's been, a lot of moments where it's obvious it's been Tompa, but here, there hasn't actually been any reason to suspect Tompa. He's just this nice guy that tried to help them out, and his drinks just so happened to, have been expired. So it's a very interesting change, right? Interesting, but it makes it much more raw and genuine, Leorio's reactions, because part of his reactions of Tompa picking the wrong one are out of shock and confusion. And you see Tompa trying to slime his way into some reasonings, and this is until they get to the real part of this stage. The prisoners, right, who are there trying to lower their sentences in these 1v1 battles. Tompa goes first and he immediately gives up, but without Tompa's knowledge, that actually helps them out because they're trying to stall time, Tompa didn't use any at all. And whilst they did lose the points, they actually won part of the battle. So, Killua was rationing this in his mind. He's saying, yeah, he sort of betrayed us, but he kind of helped us out. And we see Leorio struggle to handle that. And that really does stem from the one question quiz. And we see the residue from that one question quiz continue to flare up in these characters throughout this first initial arc. And it's very interesting. Next we get Gon, who's there. And they need to pick the candles of which one to use, and everyone's like, psychoanalyzing it, and they just say, Gon, you pick it, and he says, oh, I pick the big one because it's gonna last the longest, and they were just like, but there's a charm to it, right? He's a kid, he's very childish, but he's very unorthodox, which really comes into play, and this shows here as all the candles that are going to, blow out, as this test this prisoner is given has been to keep the candle for the longest possible without it extinguishing. He actually had 4, and both one small and one big one are actually compromised, and he was always going to give Gon a compromised one. So Gon, typical to his usual fashion, he puts it on the ground. He says, hey, I can use this disadvantage as an advantage. Because it's flaring up so fast, it means it won't actually go out. So he places it on the ground and he runs and blows out the prisoner's candle. And we see the prison warden is extremely impressed, as is everyone being throughout the Hunter exam. We have these moments where in 3 chapters prior, the hunters which are doing the first, second phase, they're all just sitting down together and they're talking about the applicants. Of course, they say Hisoka's, the most frightening, Killua is the most competent, but all of them acknowledge that Gon shows a lot of promise. He's someone that everyone in the story, in every single portion, has seen this potential in him. And it's great to see it so early on, as it's something that's been setting up, and it makes the payoff to it feel that much more satisfying. So that is the ends of the amazing second volume of Hunter x Hunter. What do I think? It's a tough one. I genuinely believe it is actually better than the first volume. And that is quite something to say. For a story to have such a strong start and get better is unusual to say the least. I'll give it a 9 out of 10, and I say that its real great gripping strengths is its awareness of the reader's boredom, the reader's attention span, and the reader's curiosity. It manages to always strike a balance, and before you lose focus for an instant, comedies thrown in, scene changes, plot twists. It's done very deliberately and very masterfully at that. I found that this second volume builds on the first volume and added a lot of personality, charm, and characterization. You're sort of hooked in the first volume, but I feel like this second volume, for a first-time reader, is really where you would fall in love with Hunter x Hunter. Of course, for me, I believe with the animes, that period is really Heaven's Arena, but just due to the charm of Togashi's arts, Togashi's writing, and elements of the way that the paneling is displayed to us, this sense of corruption around Hisoka, just the way that colors, the contrast between the whites and the black and the different shades of them, it's very hard to put into words. I'll show just some examples so you can see exactly the enigma of a Togashi which I am portraying right now. But it really does make you feel more attached to it. There's a sense of personalization towards Hunter x Hunter where it feels like a very niche manga. There's something really weird to say about something which is so popular, so well known, and for the most part, I wouldn't say it's bland in the anime, but it's kind of, very steadfast. And in the other anime, it's very 90s-esque. So there is quite a difference. And, I feel like no matter what kind of Hunter x Hunter fan you are, or if you haven't read the manga, you absolutely would. And this is an example of what I'm talking about. The sudden change in color, the dynamics, seeing Gon's face move, having the two faces showing, it gives a lot of personality, and it's a very, very fond way. And here, in between these chapters, you've got different art styles portraying these characters in alternative forms that they could see. So we see glimpses into their other moods, their other appearances. And overall, I found that this second volume was just a gem of diamonds. I'd say that Trick Tower is probably the weakest aspect of it. If Trick Tower had been better, it could possibly even gotten a 10 out of 10, but that is a very, very high echelon of bar to get to. So that was the review. I hope you've all enjoyed. And you might have noticed that the visuals look different, the audio looks different. They're probably both worse off. To explain a bit why this looks different than my usual videos, unfortunately, I got hit by a cyclone, which has been crazy. I've been getting hit by cyclone after cyclone, so pretty unlucky. But regardless, there was a power surge that completely destroyed my iPhone 13 Pro Max. And the iPhone 13 Pro Max is what I was using to record my videos. I couldn't get anything out of it, not even a backup, not any photos. It was completely fried and grilled. Just on a cellular level, like every part of the phone was completely broken, unrepairable. I went to every single Apple shop, computer shop. So I had to buy a temporary phone until I could get the iPhone 17 Pro Max, which is the next evolution in evolving the camera, the audio quality, making the channel feel more premium. So I'm currently using the Redmi Note 13 Pro, but of course it is a much cheaper phone. It is, I don't know your currency, whoever you're watching this, but it's around 200 something, in most currencies. So it's more of a cheaper phone. So yeah, I apologize. I'm going to try to see if I can, learn how to do things on my PC and buy a microphone and a webcam. And maybe that's the move, is to move to PC, but yeah, until then, I wanted to get a video out because due to all the things happening back to back, the cyclone warnings, the phone breaking, just all this, just chaos, really, I wasn't able to upload. And, it's been 9 days. Last Thursday was when I last uploaded. So, I really wanted to get this video out to you guys. And no matter what happens, I will keep recording. I hope I can improve on this. But even if I can't for the moment, I will keep uploading every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you for watching. I hope you all have an amazing day. This was Hadrigon. Peace out.